This is a setup demonstration for the Geek Vape Zeus Nano tank. Inside the box, in addition to the tank itself, you will find a little box that's going to have some extras in it, which will include a spare glass that will be a higher capacity glass. The one that comes pre-installed is a 2 milliliter capacity, and the bubble glass is a 3.5 milliliter per fill capacity, as well as a spare coil, a small tool for being helpful to remove the coil, and some spare seals in case you lose any of the ones that come pre-installed. Also, under the foam tray, there will be an instruction manual provided by the manufacturer. Let's take a look at the tank itself. The Zeus Nano is going to utilize the same series of coils that Geek Vape made for their Aegis Boost pod systems, if you're familiar with that one. It has top airflow above the coil, which is designed to help make it less prone to leaking in the event that the coil gets flooded. When airflow is below the coil, liquid that gets flooded in the coil can end up leaking out the airflow base. In this case, the worst thing that'll happen is your coil will be gurgly until you work through the excess liquid, because the airflow is located at the top of the tank instead. For refilling the tank, you'll grasp the top cap section and give it about a half turn and pull it right off. There's a notch mechanism inside the top cap and the top of the tank that keeps it in place. To replace the top cap, you'll simply rest it on top and turn it until it sits in that little groove, and then give it a turn, about a half turn, to secure it. Right below that is your airflow control ring, which you can simply turn back and forth to restrict or open up the airflow as you prefer. For changing out or reinstalling the coil, you'd simply remove the tank from your device and grasp the bottom section and unscrew it from the rest of the tank, which will expose the coil. In this case, they designed the Nano that there's plenty of space to be able to grab firmly onto that coil to tug it out, but they do include the same tool as they have for the original Zeus, as well as the Boost, in case it's a little difficult for you to grab those out. The coil itself, when we take a look at those, when you're first setting up a new coil, you want to make sure that the wicking material is fully saturated. So you can either manually prime it by applying liquid to the exposed cotton wicking ports on the sides of the coil until they're fully saturated, or you can simply take your new coil, press fit it right in, fill your tank, and wait about 5 to 10 minutes before using it. Another thing to note, on the bottom of the coil, you'll notice that there are 2 rounded edges and 2 flat edges, and then you have these holes down in the bottom of the tank here. That's how your airflow comes up through the coil to be able to vape. So I would recommend, I don't think it's 100% necessary, but making sure that the flat edges are the ones that line up with those 2 holes on either side, instead of having it the round way, just to make sure that there's absolutely nothing that can impede the airflow. Though so far in our experience, it hasn't made a difference. We tested it out both ways and I didn't really notice a difference. And then, of course, to close your tank back up the rest of the way, you'd have to screw the base back on before being able to put it onto your device. When it comes to filling the tank, after removing the top cap, you'll notice you've got your center chimney hole and then 2 holes on either side. Those are your fill ports. You'll want to avoid putting liquid right down the center because that's going to go straight to the coil in the center chamber there and just flood the coil section. So you take your bottle of liquid, insert the nozzle into one or the other fill port, and squeeze to fill. And then once again, to replace the top cap, let it sink into the groove and turn it to close. It comes with a 510 mouthpiece that is pre-installed. It's relatively narrow kind of style of mouthpiece. Some folks don't prefer the wider open ones. There are 2 different styles of coil for this tank, as I mentioned. The one that comes pre-installed is a 0.4 ohm mesh coil that is rated for 25 to 33 watts. And the backup that comes with the tank is a 0.6 ohm coil that's rated for 15 to 25 watts. We generally recommend that folks try both coils that come with a new device before deciding and getting more coils so that you can figure out which one you personally prefer, unless you already have experience with those kind of wattage ranges and generally know which kind of output you prefer. That's about everything you need to know to get started with the Geek Vape Zeus Nano tank. Happy vaping!